This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All righty, there he is.
What's good, man?
Did you have your Cuban coffee yet?
I did not have my Cuban coffee. I'm in Charlotte still, so I'm trying to make sure I can get out of here. They delayed my flight twice, so been on the phone with my flight people, make sure I can get back home.
Maybe they don't want you back home. Maybe that's what it is.
Right. I believe it.
So.
They probably don't, you know?
I think the wife and the kid called and said, keep him out there. We don't need him here anymore. He's bothering us.
It's better. It's better.
Stupid show with Orlando twice a week making noise. We can't stand it. You know, that's probably what's going on.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. Yeah. They're like, at least keep him through the weekend. We'll take him back on Monday, but keep him through the weekend.
Yeah. I may be the one that got you kicked out of the house. Who knows? Who knows? By the way, your basketball team almost beat the Heat last night.
Who's my basketball team?
Oh, you're in Charlotte.
Oh, I see.
Get it?
Yes.
Get it? By the way, isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing to you that Michael Jordan is the greatest player ever, and as good as a player he is, he's that bad of a general manager?
It doesn't amaze me because a lot of times you see that. I mean, we saw Derek Jeter. It didn't work with the Marlins with Derek Jeter. No. A lot of times, just the average players, the backup quarterbacks, and the guys who never saw the field, who end up being the star coaches.
Yeah, the catcher.
Yeah, right? The catcher, the backup catchers too. It's not
the backup catcher. You're right.
Not even the all-stars. It's the guys who just been watching, sitting. So it actually does not surprise me, but it surprises me that he's kept it up as long as he has. Like if I'm Michael Jordan, if it didn't work, like I'm not gonna lie to you, I probably would quit. If it didn't work the first 3 or 4 years, I'm like, hey man, I got plenty of money. I'm a billionaire. I'm the greatest basketball player ever. I got the greatest sneakers ever. I'm gonna go do something else. But credit to him, he has not quit. He has just put out bad team after bad team every year.
That's a credit to him. Okay, all
right. He didn't quit. I mean, that's perseverance, man. I would not have that. I would not have that. You could call me a quitter, but I would be done.
I mean, but the ego, brother, just go get a general manager.
Right.
Go get somebody that does this for a living, and because you're worried about getting a cigar and a little bourbon and hitting the back nine during the day. You got to get a guy that what people don't realize is that those general managers, they have no lives. Those are the people and Michael wants a life on top of being that, and unfortunately, head coaches and general managers in all sports, they don't have lives.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. They have to have that sort of focus. And the other element of it that I think prevents star players from doing it is they always see everything in their lens. Michael Jordan expects everybody to be Michael Jordan. And so he has very little patience, and he also probably is not a great evaluator of talent because of that. And so I think it's tough. So I don't think they'll ever have a good team there. But he keeps trying.
No, I'm with you there. By the way, you look at the Dolphins this week against the Brownies. How you looking at this matchup for Miami? What's the key for you there?
Yes, interesting contrast of styles, right? Because oddly enough, the Dolphins are the air raid team that throws the ball over the field with Tyreek and Tua and Jalen and the Chubb, and the Browns, led by Nick Chubb, are the old school grounded out. And so I'm eager to see how the Dolphins defend the run. They let Justin Fields go off this past week. They've actually been pretty good against backs, but not quarterbacks. And so, Nick Chubb's probably the best in the league as far as outside zone, and that's something that they have had some struggles with. And so I'm curious to see how they stop that element of it. I think this game is more about containing the edge than rushing the passer. I think they'll score points on this Browns defense. I'm not afraid of anybody. They just got to make sure the edge rushers can contain Garrett and Clowney. But other than that, their secondary is not super scary to me. They should get Denzel Ward back, who's been missing the last 5 weeks. But as we've seen all season, nobody can cover Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So I think the Dolphins will be in that high 20s, 30s category. It'll just be up to the defense if they can stop a nosebleed like they couldn't against Chicago.
Is the criticism of Josh Boyer fair? Because I find it to be absolutely unfair. I credit Justin Fields for last week. You know, when you're a great athlete, just like Tyreek, you're going to make people look stupid. And what I love is that you just said it there. They've had some problems with the running quarterback, which my God, how many
Yep.
people have problems with those kind of guys? You
Yeah.
know, it's not easy to catch the chicken like Rocky. So it's just one of those deals. And then they clearly forget that when Tua was out for 3 weeks, Boyer's defense did a pretty good job of keeping them in games. And then the other thing is, even when they've, and Boyer was talking about this himself, was it yesterday or the day before when Boyer talked? I'm not exactly sure, but he was talking about how one of the things that he likes about his guys is that they find a way to make a play when they have to make a play also. And that kind of happened in the Chicago game. Duke Riley had a big play, big tackle at the end there. Guys made some plays in the end to kind of seal the deal in that game. So the criticism of fans, because I don't think a lot of the local media has actually been on Boyer, but I get it from a lot of fans. So your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think obviously he has to take some culpability when you're giving up 30 plus points in back to back weeks, but I don't necessarily think it's a whole scheme issue. If your issues with Boyer, then you think that the scheme's the issue or he's not coaching the guys well enough. I think the issue has been because of some injuries, they have been forced to play a defense that is not their defense. They've been forced to play zone defense a lot more. And this is not a team that thrives in zone coverage. And so we've seen them not be able to play their aggressive man coverage, zero blitz. We're going to give it to you. We're going to turn over the ball type defense because you lose Byron Jones, you lose Nick Needham, you lose Brandon Jones. You haven't got top tier Xavier Howard this year. And so your secondary, which used to be the strength of the team, is now a liability. And so to me, that's the part of, and maybe Josh hasn't done a great enough job helping them get to zone. Maybe that could be your criticism there. But if you're a man team, if that's what you do, that's what your identity is. I don't know how many teams mid-season can change their identity completely and still be a good defense. And so the pass rush has always been an issue. That's something that I don't think is coaching. I think that's a talent and a player execution thing. But the secondary, to me, has been the most alarming thing. And I think a lot of that's based on the coverages they run. So I think that, Josh Boyer knows that his guys can't give up 30 points on a regular basis and expect to win. And so that part of it is on him. But I think that overall, I think it's a combination of the injuries and also guys who are paid a lot of money not really living up to their contract so far this year.
Right. I can't blame him that he's playing with corners 5, 6, 7, and 8, along with a backup strong safety now. That's why you're going to give up a bunch of points.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can't blame him that Agba and Jalen Phillips aren't getting the sacks that they're supposed to. And that's why the front office said, well, we got to go get another guy and let's go get Chubb because we can't expose this secondary. So we've got to increase the pressure. And obviously they're hoping that with Chubb, that will help out. So you nailed it. They had to change their style. They don't have Byron Jones. They don't have their lockdown corners. So if they don't have their lockdown corners, the front seven can't play the way they normally play. So now they've had to readjust, and the talent doesn't fit what you're actually playing right now. So
Right.
it's hard for me to ask Boyer to ask corners 5, 6, 7, and 8 to play like corners 2, 3, and 4. I just can't ask you to do that. And then Brandon Jones is impossible to replace. There's nobody on the team unless Veron McKinley, is something special that they, like Kohu has turned into something for them. Then
Yeah, he's
maybe
been really good.
that will help out. But for now, I don't know of anybody that even comes close to what Brandon Jones can do for this team, and it's a devastating loss for them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, that was a big loss. Brandon Jones had been playing really well. Cater Kohu has been playing well, so he's filled a role for sure. Now, I will say this. I think that all the things I mentioned are good context, right? The injuries, the scheme change, all that's good context. But I will say the really good coaches are able to adjust to their personnel. And maybe this is an opportunity after this week when they have their bye week coming up where Josh and the defensive staff can really dial in and how can we because the reality is isn't going to change. I think if you're holding out hope that Byron Jones is going to come back, I think that's hopeful wishing. Nick Needham's obviously out for the year. Brandon Jones is going to be out for the year. So these are all things that have impacted them. But the reality is, if the Dolphins want to get where they got to go, they got to go with this group. And so you can't just say, hey, hey, woe is me. We've been hurt. It is what it is. No, they got to adjust. So I think this bye week is an opportunity and a challenge for Josh Boyer to say, okay, we've been dealt the hand we've been dealt. It's not ideal. We've got to switch our coverages. How can we maximize our group with playing more zone coverage? How can we get more out of our group with doing that? And so that's my challenge, I guess, for him and the coaching staff.
But wait a minute. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Have you watched X play?
I have. It's a challenge for him too.
And where is that Boyer's fault that he is not at that he's clearly not himself? Okay, Cam, they are attacking X like any other corner,
right,
week in and week out. Where is that Boyer's fault?
I wouldn't say it's completely Boyer's fault. I'd say it's mostly Xavier's fault. He's got to play. No, it's not all. Let me explain why. Okay. As we talk about Tua and what McDaniel's done for Tua, your job as a coach is to do what your guys do best and to motivate and help their confidence get up. I think that Sam Madison hit it on the point that X has to get his confidence back. That's partly him, mostly him, but also your coaches have to do a good job of picking up players and helping players get back to who they are. And so that is some culpability for the coaches in that situation. They've got to figure out a way. Emmanuel Ogbah has not played well so far this year.
He's not a good psychologist. So now we gotta.
No, but come on, Boyer. Man. Nah, don't do that.
He's got to work X's at this point in his career. If I got to work your psyche, then something's wrong with you, dude.
But you can't call it both ways.
Or are you not a great player?
Listen, you can't call it both ways because if I'm right, you were the guy who criticized Brian Flores for how he treated Tua and how he didn't give him the support and all of that things. And he needed that, right? And he needed the boosting up and the confidence, that sort of thing, right? And now we're seeing how Tua's playing with it. And so at the same token, if you're not seeing that otherwise, you're saying, well, X needs to be this, everybody needs a little bit of something. It can't just be your quarterback.
That's apples and oranges. Josh Boyer is not telling X, I never wanted you. I don't want you to start. In fact, I'm going to start Keon crossing over your ass. No, that never happened, bro.
Right. I'm not saying it's apples to apples.
The coach went out of his way to bury effing Tua. The coach has done nothing to bury X. Right. Josh Boyer has not done anything. It's all on X to play well. And unfortunately for X, he does have a groin injury or maybe groins. I'm not exactly sure if he still only has 2 or 1 or whatever. So it's hurting him. But I can't blame Boyer for X's, downplay right now. And in a way, I can't also blame X either to a certain extent because injury is injury. It's going to take apart. But he's not himself. They're attacking him. And what else is Boyer supposed to do? He doesn't have a number 2 corner. He doesn't have a number 3 corner. His number 4 was Trill Williams. He's out for the year. So now you got a whole bunch of guys. Keon Crossen should not be starting anywhere. Let's be honest now. I mean, this is the way it is. He's out there, but he really shouldn't be out there. I don't know. We're asking Boyer to make chicken salad out of chicken shit. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and that's what I mentioned at the top. But at the same time, your job as a coach is to do that. And so that's why I said I do not give a lot of blame to Boyer. That was your initial question, right? I don't give a lot of blame to Boyer. But at the same token, even though I don't blame him for this, I do say that the second half of the year is a challenge for him to take this, what he has, because it's not going to change, and maximize it. He can't just put his hands up and like, oh, well, all my corners are hurt, so it's not my fault that we suck. He can't say that.
And he's not.
Right.
And he's not. Did you see his interview?
Right. I'm not saying
he laid on the sword for the entire interview. I got to do a better job. I got to do a better job putting my guys. And I'm sitting there going, way to go, coach. Way to stand up for your guys. But You don't have.
Right.
It's interesting how they're number 5 against the run going into last week before Justin Fields just absolutely destroyed them. But against running backs, they're fine. Against these running quarterbacks, which a lot of people struggle with, but in the secondary, they're really struggling overall. It's funny how they have players up front and they can do pretty good against the run. Now, they haven't done great against the pass rush, but on the secondary, it's hard to do your job when you're just not good enough, Cam. There's one guy playing at an elite level and nobody else.
That's true. That's true. And you got to get more. I made that point at the point. You got to get more from Xavier Howard. Whether you say, and I recommended this before. Maybe this is a week where you say, hey, if I can get him fully healthy, if the injury is truly still an issue, sit him for this week, send him through the bye, and you get 2 weeks of rest. And ideally, you come back and he's back himself. I would take that risk against a team like Cleveland, but that's a coaching decision. That's something the coach would have to make a call on, right? That's a bold move and something that the X probably wouldn't like. But if you feel like it's best for your team, that's a move you have to do. If that's the reason why you think he's not playing to that level, these are things that I think come involved in sort of being a coach. So I don't know.
All right. So now, as I've said, cornerback 2 has been out all year. Cornerback 3 is done for the year, and cornerback 4 is done for the year. X is injured. Brandon Jones out. So if you want Josh Boyer to help you out, well, guess what Josh Boyer did in the offseason? Josh Boyer in the offseason went and scouted a guy, and he found him. And his name is Kader Kohou, and he's developed him. And he's the best corner on the team right now, probably in front of X, okay? And as you see, CBS went out and put their rookie rankings. Kader Kohou is number 6 in rookie. These are a bunch of first and second round picks that are on this list. Here's an undrafted dude out of Division II. So here's a guy that's coaching and scouting for you. And the only guy in the secondary outside of course, the safety, that it's excelling is this guy. The other guys, Crofton, not good enough. Elijah Campbell's not good enough. Come on, man. And then X is injured. So it kind of shows you that Boyer is, he kind of knows what the hell he's doing. It's just right now, maybe his hands are a little tied with some of the situations that are going on in that secondary.
No, absolutely. I think that's the best thing about Josh Boyer. And he has a lot of good qualities as a coach, but he has a unique knack of finding hidden gems and making them true players. And he has a very accomplished history of that. Malcolm Butler from New England, that was Josh Boyer. Jonathan Jones, New England, that's Josh Boyer. J.C. Jackson, that's Josh Boyer. Nick Needham, that's Josh Boyer.
So why do we want to fire this guy?
And so I didn't say who said he
the fans, bro. The fan. I'm not saying you or me, dude.
I was about to say that's a straw man.
I started the damn question by telling you the no local media is saying fire Josh Boyer. Right. I'm getting bombarded by fans that can't stand this guy, and to me, it's freaking clueless. That's
I think the reality of it is like any common situation. If your defense is struggling, you're going to naturally blame your defensive coordinator. It's just the natural thing to do, right? Like before you get into nuances, my defense gives up 30-plus points back-to-back weeks. Whose fault is it? The defensive coordinator. It's the same thing, offensive coordinator. When Tua wasn't playing well, it's, what's Mike McDaniel doing? I mean, when they were struggling those 3 games without Tua, it was, McDaniel can't do it, and so it's always going to be the natural thing, and so that doesn't bother me. Everybody's always going to call for.
But Cam, then we're not fair. When Tua's out for 3 weeks, Josh Boyer's defense kept your ass in the game and gave you chances to win, and so you know how this fair weather world is. So all of a sudden, there are a couple of weeks where things are rough. And you're like, okay, now we want to fire him. And it's like, you don't remember during those 3-game losing streak? Why? Because you were losing. That's why you don't remember it. But the defense actually did a decent job during that 3-game losing streak. It was just that the offense couldn't score points. No shit. Your guy was out. Uno's out. You're done. But I think Josh Boyer gets mistreated, bro. I just do. I really do. It's kind of I almost feel like I'm fighting for Tua again. That's kind of what I feel like again. I'm fighting for Tua. And
Right.
Chris Greer, by the way. Chris Greer and Tua that I had to fight for the last couple of years. I feel like I'm doing the same shit right now for Josh Boyer. That's what I feel like.
I hear you. I hear you. I don't have any issue with Boyer in the sense that you got to fire him. I do think the defense has got to be playing better. I think it's interesting how we've seen a little bit of a switch the last few weeks on the offense carrying the team. But the reality is the defense has carried the team for years. And so as long as it shifts at some point, because you can't continue to win shootouts, but as long as the defense gets it together to an extent at some point, you'll be fine. I think the worrisome thing is if it becomes a trend. Right now, it's just 2 games. Like you said, the defense played really well early in the season against Buffalo, against Pittsburgh. They won those games among others. New England, and so they've shown elements of that. It's just, okay, have we seen the best of it, or are we just dealing with some consistency issues? I'm fine with consistency issues. That happens in the course of the season. You're going to have bad games. You're going to have up and downs. But if this is the defense we're going to see the rest of the season, then that's going to be a huge issue.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. There's no doubt about that. All right. What are you working on the NFL Network so folks can check you out, my friend?
Yeah, man. I actually am leaving Charlotte. I actually did the Thursday night football game this past week, which wasn't
maybe you're leaving Charlotte.
Maybe. Hopefully. Currently, the flight is scheduled to leave at 12:30. We will see if I leave at 12:30. I don't know.
Shit, that's right. The storm is going through there.
Going up. Yep.
Yeah, I forgot.
And so I'm getting some of it. So yeah, I escaped on the way out, but may not escape on the way back. We'll see. But yeah, I did this Thursday night football game. I actually told a really cool story about Jake Matthews. If you guys didn't see it, guy, the left tackle for the Falcons. Sure. He ended up leaving Charlotte, where he was yesterday at the team hotel, to fly to Atlanta because his wife was in labor. Saw his baby boy delivered. They actually drove him to Atlanta because they couldn't find a private jet in time. So he drove 3 hours speeding through traffic, got to see his baby born, then came back on a private jet from the owner. I was talking with the head coach throughout, and he was trying to track him, and he literally showed up about an hour before the game and ran into the locker room and changed. It would have been a more fun story if they won, they lost, but still, nonetheless, like he and his family are going to remember that forever. Can you imagine? He woke up at 5 a.m. with 10 missed calls from his wife and saying we're in labor. She was supposed to come on Sunday, and, baby came when baby came. So that was a cool story to tell. So I told that this weekend. Sunday, I'll be back at the Dolphins game. So I will be checking out what they do against the Browns before the bye.
How disgusting is Marcus Mariota? Holy shit, dude.
Yeah, it was a rough game for him, man. I did.
That throw he attempted from the floor, that it was a dead ball because he had been tackled. Like, what are you thinking, bro? And the fact that the coach was like, no, I had no intentions on benching him. And I get it. You got the Cincinnati kid, you got the 3rd rounder, but and I get it. It's a terrible division, so you're in the middle of the race and all that. Right. But Marcus Mariota, bro, the decisions he was making in that game. Yeah. I mean, I get it, man. It's a mediocre league for quarterbacks. Half the league doesn't have a real quarterback. I get that, but wow.
I think he was trying to. Yeah, I think he was trying to force some things. He got a lot of criticism over the last couple of weeks because they were super conservative. They like to run the ball a lot. They don't throw it to Kyle Pitts and Drake London.
Wait. That's who he is as a quarterback.
Right. Exactly.
And by the way, keep him that way, because if you dial it up, this is what happens.
Exactly.
He's not capable of doing that.
Yeah, and I think that this is a situation kind of like with Tua with the sliding, where Marcus probably heard a little bit too much of you not throwing the ball, you're too conservative, and he got in his own head. And I think the hope is that he goes back to, even if he's only throwing the ball 15, 20 times a game, and it's just really efficient, that's where you get the best markets. You're handicapped, you're limited, but that gives you the best chance to win. And so, yeah, last night was rough for him, but I will give Dolphins fans this. I've known Marcus since Tennessee days, and he saw me in the locker room, and he wanted me to send a message to Tua that I'll send. And he's like, hey, tell Tua, man, I've been loving how he's playing. I just got one message for him. Please slide. And I said, that's a message that I think Dolphins fans would share as well.
Yeah, everywhere. He looks like a nice guy, and I had one of the coaches on in Hawaii about a year and a half ago, year ago, or whatever, and he was talking about how Mariota and him were in the high school system and all that kind of stuff. But
Tua's mentor was actually Marcus. They
yes.
It was the same high school, and
Yeah.
so they came up the same way. Like everybody wanted to be the next Mariota. And then Tua became the guy, and now everybody wants to be the next Tua. And so it's sort of a bloodline of sort of Polynesian quarterbacks that hasn't been a thing in the NFL until really these two guys done it.
Yeah. But there's only one real passer, and that's Uno. Uno's the real passer. Mariota will never. And by the way, he wasn't accurate at Oregon either. So it's just one of those things that's kind of been part of his DNA. He doesn't have the dead ass accuracy that Tua has. He doesn't have the ball placement and the anticipatory skills of Tua. That's a gift. People. I said it in the Dolphin media room, a couple months ago, and I felt the snickering, and I said, hey, I've seen the Breezes and the Montanas and the Greasies and the Tarkentons of the world. This is one of those guys. And if you look at it in the generations, there aren't a lot of them, Cam. It's Greasy and Tarkenton kind of in the same era. Then came Montana. Then came Breeze. There's not a lot of those guys that come through the league that aren't the big arm guys, but they're the big accuracy, anticipatory, all those kind of things, vision. That's what all those guys had. He's that generation. He's part of that. And I felt the snickering and all that kind of stuff. And now more people are probably going to have to shut the hell up now because they're going to see, because I keep saying he's the lefty Montana. The lazy comparison is Steve Young. He was never the runner that Steve Young was. Steve Young
Right.
played like a fullback playing quarterback early in his career, which was really dumb. He took on a lot of hits that he didn't have to. But he's Montana. I think the guy that the Dolphins have is Montana.
Well, that's a lofty comparison, but he has played really well this year, so we'll see. But yeah, let me run, man. I got to catch this flight, but we'll catch you after the game on Sunday.
Maybe you'll catch the flight. Maybe.
Yes, hopefully.
Be safe, brother. All right. We'll talk to you later. Yep. You got it. The Wolf Pack has been unleashed. Hour number 2 is next.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.